area because they do not have, it's kind of a precarious spot here. That's a residential street that this has come to a stop at the end of Hortense Street and Vineland Place here in North Hollywood. We're just north of the 134. And they are trying at all costs to keep the public at bay.
Yeah. We're watching on the right side of your screen, by the way, the collision earlier when he sideswiped a car through that intersection. And there you have it right there. And that's when we believe that the back rear tire was disabled somehow.
And then you could
exactly
see
right.
in that video how he just getting out. And again, we don't know if he was unable to see because of the impact of those bags, but he did. It was uncontrollable there for a moment, which could be why he's just sitting there. Because if it was a vehicle he could not control, then he knows that if he starts moving forward, he's not going to be able to control that vehicle again. And it did look out of alignment when we saw from Chris's when he moved around.
Not seeing this.
Keep in mind. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, keep in mind, we still, even at this juncture, do not know what the original charges were against this person. We know that there have been charges kind of stacking up over the course of this pursuit, including failure to yield. But what exactly led to this pursuit? What other crimes have been committed here? It certainly seems like a lot more than just a traffic stop. So some unanswered questions yet to be known, at least from our position up here at this point. But certainly a desperate and dangerous individual behind the wheel. The best thing we could say is that it does appear from this vantage point that he looks to be alone in the vehicle. It did not see anybody in the passenger seat, and we can only presume that perhaps that back seat might be empty as well. But right now, we only are aware of the driver behind the wheel of it, what appears to be a Ford sedan.
And we're still seeing him in the front seat, not too agitated, just barely moving his hands now, keeping his hands on the steering wheel at times, but we'll see how quickly he surrenders.
And we're going to continue to monitor this. Right now, we are coming up on World News Tonight, which we are going to go to. That will be live with David Muir, World News Tonight. But we're going to continue to cover this. It will be on our ABC 7 Los Angeles app. So we'll be able to show you how this concludes. You see that they're starting to turn some of the traffic around. Go now to World News Tonight with David Muir.
Live on ABC7.com right now, the ABC 7 Los Angeles app, and you're watching the end of a pursuit right now. We hope is the end. At least this person is not giving up in this vehicle. We believe the car has been disabled somewhat after like a collision through an intersection not long before that. And
Chris Christie is in Air 7. And Chris, you have a better perspective as to what is in front of those officers because we watch one officer continue, the deputy waving people away. At first I thought maybe it was people that were thinking about entering that intersection, but it could be that they're trying to keep people out of the line of fire, yes? I mean, look at these two guys rolling up.
Exactly. You've got people on scooters here alongside this road, along Vineland, but at the end of this street, at the intersection, there is at least one or two black and whites. I'm not sure which agency, perhaps LAPD, that have shut down the intersection just to the south of the 134. You can see right there to the bottom of your screen. So there is no traffic in the crossfire. However, you still have pedestrian any other vehicles or pedestrians as they bring this person into custody.
Well, as we see how the sheriff's deputies are going to handle this, we have been following this now for 20 minutes or so, and we saw some of the dangerous driving that Chris was talking about as it happened. This video that you're seeing on the right is really the beginning of the end. You see the initial sideswipe of that little silver compact car, and the driver almost accelerated away from that. But then there was a really tricky intersection just before where we're looking at here, where the suspect entered the initial part of the intersection, was kind of driving through, and you're going to see it here in just a moment, where the suspect slows down and thought that this person was going to be able to navigate through this intersection. And it looked for a moment like he was going to be able to. But then right here, he goes to the shoulder. You see him get through this little section, but then right as he enters into this part, that vehicle hit him with some force, enough force that caused the airbags on the side to go off, deploy. The front airbag was still fine, but you see in that video, Chris, he just lost control of the vehicle, and it looks as you went around to the other side of that vehicle, it did look like the back end is now out of alignment. That back rear tire does look like it has just tilted in into the trunk part. So the front's out, the back, and you're not going to be able to drive that vehicle if that tire is really out of alignment that badly.
Yeah, that's what I think too, and quite frankly, I can't think of any other reason he would have come to a stop, considering everything he was, considering the behavior coming from behind the wheel. I cannot imagine any other reason why this vehicle came to a stop, except for the fact that I think it has been immobilized, at least for the time being. He may be trying to start it up and trying to move the vehicle, but at this point, it looks like that vehicle is basically, at least at this point, done.
I don't see his hands anymore. We were able to very clearly, right at the end of the pursuit, you pointed out, see his hands at 10 and 2, right on the steering wheel. But I really don't even see the person now, almost as if maybe he's climbed into the back seat. Can you, from your vantage point, see him in the front seat?
I cannot. Unfortunately, there's just a little bit too much glare. It's worth reiterating. There is very limited visibility into or out of this vehicle other than the front and perhaps the rear windshield because of those airbags. Mm-hmm. Those airbags, once they were deployed, have now blocked the visibility through all 4 passenger windows. And now the little visibility that we have through the front here is just a little bit too glaring for us to make out any shapes or people inside that driver's seat. Is he crawling to the back? Possibly. We were very clearly able to see the hands on the steering wheel. Now we do not see that, and that is a very discouraging sign for us, but also for law enforcement as they try and bring this to a peaceful resolution. But with just those 3 black and whites behind them and more backup on the way, they may treat this as an extended standoff until they have better communication or visibility inside that vehicle. But they're not going to take any chances, especially if they have any reason to believe, any more reason to believe than we already do, that he might, you just never know, but might be armed, considering the driving here.
So we just wait and see, and hopefully the traffic doesn't get too backed up behind this this intersection here.
Yeah, traffic's still pretty light. Fortunately, not causing a major delay here. We're just, again, just south of the 134, right at the 170. And you can see basically, normal weekday traffic, but it's not really having a major impact, thankfully, at this point. But at this point, it is giving officers an opportunity to kind of take their time. Obviously, they have all the time they need here, but they may require some additional resources and potentially even a call out to the Special Enforcement Bureau or perhaps LAPD will bring in some more help. Yeah,
I was almost thinking the Bearcat might be on the way, because then that way you can really, because you can't bring one of these cruisers to box him in. You just can't do that. It's too dangerous for the officers, the deputies. So, I mean, they would bring their version of SWAT out there, right? And if this person just continues to stay in the vehicle, at some point you have to get him, and they're not going to put deputies at risk on that.
Yeah, that would be the long game. It's typically about an hour call out. There are some that are on standby, some Bearcats that there's one down in, I believe, in Lakewood in that area, and also in the Santa Clarita Valley. So probably the one in Santa Clarita would make its way into the San Fernando Valley if they needed, or they could call for some mutual aid here from LAPD, which likely has perhaps more resources close by, potentially. It's a discussion that is probably being had as we sit here, but I would expect in any event we will see more backup arriving here in short order. Surprised we're not seeing more. I only see 4 black and whites and perhaps an undercover unit there. As we widen out, you can see still limited personnel at the end of this pursuit, which is now turning into a standoff. There are additional traffic officers entering the area to keep traffic away from this intersection. Here come more units as they try and figure out how to handle the driver behind the wheel of this suspect vehicle.
And there's another car there, right there with the hazards on. Do we know what vehicle that is?
That's the undercover. That's the vehicle I was talking about. Oh, that one there is
that's
one
the
of the
vehicle that got
vehicles
sideswiped. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
okay.
the one that got sideswiped.
Okay.
There's another dark vehicle at the end, right there.
I
That
see.
may or may not be an undercover unit. It looks like perhaps a law enforcement vehicle, but I'm not positive there. Can't make out the plates. In any event, you can see a handful of units at the end of this pursuit trying to coax that suspect out. And for a minute there, I thought if we could push back into the driver's seat, I thought I saw the driver's window roll down, and now it might be rolled back up, or perhaps I'm just getting a bad angle here. But I thought perhaps for a minute that driver's side window was rolled down. Either way, you really can't see through it because of that airbag.
I don't know for sure, but the black vehicle that we were looking at a moment ago, it looked like a Honda. And it does appear it might be the vehicle that ran into him.
Yeah,
It might be just because if the
civilian.
Yeah, if the
right.
sideswiped vehicle was able to make his way down to this location, and then this person maybe was the one that hit, and you see somebody hit you, you want to find out what's going on. But now you're looking at a lot of these deputies that are needing to stop the people. If you notice all of the bystanders, so it's not just traffic they're working on. They're also had a couple of kids on scooters that came up. They wanted to see what's going on, and everybody is at risk if the suspect is armed, which they have to treat that suspect as if they are armed. And so now you are, Chris, seeing some of the traffic being allowed access to even make a U-turn and go around behind. But see, this is what we keep looking at, the deputy waving people away. And I don't know, I can't see from your shot who they're trying to wave away.
Well, it's a lot of pedestrians who are kind of in the terrestrial area here, and everybody that shows up here is now a cameraman, right? They've all got their cell phones out trying to get a glimpse of this and trying to get some snaps off. So it's a troubling situation, and it's all too common at the end of situations like this, where you have everybody arriving on scene. Either they've heard about this, they've gotten the notification, whether it's a breaking news notification or the citizen alert or what have you. They are all coming outside to try and catch a glimpse and get a shot. And now you have law enforcement who are spending, basically spending time trying to keep everybody away. There's a crowd control situation at the end of each of these pursuits now, and you can see they are trying to mitigate those pedestrians.
Yeah, look at all the resources they're having to use just to get this guy to come out of his car and to keep people safe.
Yeah, it certainly seems like a static situation, but we know it is definitely not that. Right now, this is a very unpredictable situation because we do not know the state of mind of the driver behind the wheel. We only know what we've seen, and what we've seen is a very desperate and dangerous individual who, I think we could say that nobody has been seriously hurt in this pursuit, but not without risk. There has been major danger to the public at large, and that is why they are going to treat this very carefully until they have additional help or some form of cooperation from the person inside of that car.
Yeah, you had 2 children nearly hit in a crosswalk. You had 2 deputies that were almost hit. So the one thing that I keep looking at in some of the nonverbal elements that we're seeing with the deputies, and it does look like, I'm not sure, was that LAPD? Some of the LAPD officers have shown up. Maybe that's who it is. But there's a casualness with which some of the officers are walking around that makes me wonder if they know a little bit more about who's in this vehicle and how this all began at the outset. Because it does seem like in some circumstances, some of these officers are exposed if they believe that this person was armed, Chris. I saw an LAPD officer, I think it was, just walking away from his car and putting himself at risk, it seemed.
Well, the number one goal here is to keep everybody away from the front of the vehicle. And the reason is all of the guns are coming from the rear.
Yes.
You have those officers with their guns aimed from the rear, pointing towards the front, pointing south. And so everybody south of that vehicle is in danger if this goes sideways. And so you have a real mission on the part of any responding officers, including the traffic officers, to keep that line of sight clear and eliminate any chance of crossfire, so that in the event that they have to use force in this situation, it'll be only the suspect who is at risk and not the public at large. So it is a delicate situation every time, but when you have a situation where the suspect is just refusing in the middle of an intersection like this, again, thankfully it's not busier, but right now they are in a precarious position because they don't want to be in a position where they have to use force with anybody else at risk other than the driver behind the wheel there. And hopefully they don't have to use force at all. But again, that person still refusing to come out of the vehicle, very limited visibility into the vehicle, and almost no way to communicate with that person unless they bring in perhaps an armored vehicle like we discussed.
Yeah, you kind of wonder what goes through the minds of someone like this. Like, where do they think it's going to end? You know, how do they just justify staying put there? It's very odd.
Very odd. You know, we talked about the vehicle that we can just see right there by the officer who walked by, what we thought was a Honda. We were going to take a look back at the video of the end, and we were going to just try to see if, because we will see the car sideswipe there. That's the one that we saw almost follow the suspect down through this area, it seemed as if, and maybe it's not too hard to follow. You can just kind of drive in the direction and then you see the standoff. So that person went there. But then we wanted to see what the black vehicle that hits him looked like, to see if we can maybe match it up with that vehicle. There's no front end damage to the one that you look live at there on our left. So we just kind of wanted to see if what kind of vehicle ran into him here just in this moment. It's that car coming up and that one. So I don't know if that was the one, but it very well, it did. Yeah, you couldn't tell if he backed up and followed back down there, but it could have been that person because he clearly stopped. And, you know, maybe they're on the right side, our left, but the right side for the car. Maybe there's a little damage to the front end of that vehicle. So not sure if that's who it was, but they just kind of wanted to look at the video and take a look.
Right. It very well could be.
So, Chris, I mean, the traffic that's to the south of this, where are they being turned around?
So traffic to the south here, if we come back out down a little bit,
okay, there we go.
They're basically keeping traffic going on, I believe that's going to be, if you could show me Sky Map really quick, Josh, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sorry? Yeah, Riverside. That's Riverside that parallels the freeway right there. And they have basically Vineland shut down at Riverside. So nobody's able to go down that road. And the freeway, I should mention, is wide open. So the freeway traffic is traveling right past this pursuit, not causing any real delays. There's a sound barrier there, and they can't even see what's going on down below. But traffic on the freeway is wide open. Traffic on Vineland is shut down, but as I look out the window here, there is very little traffic to speak of. So it is not causing a major disruption on Vineland, thankfully. And again, most people are basically out of the way here. We're just kind of keeping our eye mainly on those pedestrians that are showing up in the auxiliary, as well as any car traffic, some residential traffic that comes down that street right there, which is now shut down as well. So they pretty much have this boxed off as they wait for more law enforcement backup. They seem to have the situation contained for the time being. You can see some fire apparatus arriving on scene as well. In all likelihood, there's the ambulance, I was just going to say, is most likely positioning just in case anybody gets hurt here. But they now have LA City Fire on the scene down there at their disposal, just in case. Also, additional resources on the way out here as well. But this does appear to be an extended standoff now that we are getting a better handle on what they are dealing with down there. They're not really in a position to do anything else at this point except for wait. They are waiting on the suspect to either cooperate or waiting on additional resources to deploy either tear gas or something inside that vehicle.
Yeah, this could be a completely different scenario if it was in this same circumstance on the freeway, because they would probably act more quickly because they wouldn't want to shut down a freeway for that long. But we've seen these kinds of standoffs last 4 hours.
Yeah,
for people, the time is on everyone, even the suspect in the vehicle, in a manner of speaking, time is on his side because he can just sit there as long as he wants. And the deputies, no one is hurt if they don't have to go and pull anybody out of there, so they can just kind of sit and wait. So if you live in this area near Riverside and Vineland, if you're in North Hollywood, you likely have a scenario that could be here for quite some time, and you will want to avoid the area. As interesting as it is for all of the folks that have walked their way over there, this is not something that you'd want to be anywhere near. You can stay with us here on our streaming app and watch it this way, because they will wait, and it is going to be a problem for anybody trying to commute through that area until they've decided that it's time to act.
Exactly. And now we see some movement from the driver's side there, some hand movement, but
Yep.
at least we know he's in the front seat
A little bit of
still.
movement, subtle, but still interesting. You can see it is coming from the driver's seat, so he does appear to be still in the front of the vehicle. It almost appears as if he's trying to move the vehicle, but I can't say for sure. In any event, he is definitely fidgeting, and I guess any animation behind that windshield is interesting. We just don't know what the intent is. Is he searching for something? Is he just enjoying his final minutes of freedom here? Most times that is often the case, since they know that time is almost up. His minutes are numbered before he ends up behind bars. And so it could be just a matter of waiting him out, unless he does have other intentions, which obviously are impossible to tell from this angle.
Without knowing, I will admit that I am not a car expert, but after an accident, can't OnStar, or aren't there opportunities that disable a vehicle that just stop it from the opportunity to move? Chris, I mean, I'm asking you. I don't know, but that, you can disable vehicles that are through OnStar, and it looked to me that. Here's the slow motion here on the right.
The car is sideswiped there.
But, Chris, I mean, we talk about whether he could drive or not, but you got into a significant accident that caused the airbags to deploy. I would wonder if there is technology in this vehicle that would just shut it down in the event of an accident.
With most older model vehicles, which I think this would qualify as a slightly older model vehicle, presumably that capability probably not an option, I think, in this situation. Now, there are newer model vehicles with luxury car makers, and especially some of the new electric car makers like Tesla and others, where they do have more capabilities to remotely control or operate the vehicle. There are logistical hurdles. There are hotlines for law enforcement agencies to communicate with the manufacturer in some cases, but there are logistical and legal hurdles to activating those methods, and have been seldom used, shall we say, even in some desperate times. But we have heard stories of the manufacturer helping out law enforcement in different situations, more often with locating the vehicle than anything else.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm not talking about. Yeah, I'm not talking about Ford or OnStar stopping the vehicle. I'm just talking about if I got in an accident in a vehicle, sometimes when the airbags are deployed, they can shut them down, or they do shut down on their own. That's kind of what I was asking, and that's just speculation as we fill time for them to try to get this person out of there.
Yeah, I don't know that to be honest, I'm not sure if the airbag itself, the deployment of the airbag itself, it could in some situations bring the vehicle to a stop, but I don't know if that's an automatic type thing. I think in this situation, what strikes me as somewhat relevant here is that the direct hit that the rear left of the vehicle took by that cross traffic at that intersection was a very similar hit, if you will, as would have taken place had it been a traditional textbook pit maneuver. That would have been how the black and white would have activated that inertia switch, or deactivated, I guess you would say, and basically killed the momentum of the vehicle and shut it off. Now, it doesn't always prevent the vehicle from starting back up, but in this situation, we haven't seen any sign of that vehicle moving again, and it almost appears as after that initial hit took place at the intersection that he basically was bouncing off the curb and was slowing down almost immediately. I don't think he was accelerating once he took that hit, and that I think is probably what might be what has brought this vehicle to a stop. Again, I can't think of any other reason he would be giving up so willingly after using such aggressive tactics to try and evade all of these cops. He really seems to be at the whim of the vehicle at this point, and I do think that that vehicle is immobilized. However, we just have not seen him even make any effort or show any signs of starting it up. And interestingly enough, those hazard lights have now been blinking since this came to a stop here. So it certainly seems as though he doesn't have any intention of surrendering it yet, at least at this point. But what is going on inside the vehicle? That's the million-dollar question. That is causing a lot of stress on the part of those deputies behind him, and even more stress for the decision makers at the sheriff's station. So we will see what resources are brought to bear here. But as you mentioned, this could be a drawn-out situation, especially, as you rightfully pointed out, considering the location. We're not talking about a busy freeway in the middle of rush hour. They have the luxury, and it is a luxury, of time where they can wait this person out, get all of their ducks in a row, and make every effort to bring this to an end peacefully, rather than acting hastily in any way or letting any other extraneous factors come into play here. They have a situation that they can contain, and they have resources on the way that are designed to, bring suspects out of vehicles. And that'll likely, I have a feeling at this point, be the use of less lethal weaponry, or perhaps some kind of pepper ball being shot at some point into that vehicle.
Right. I think the way he was trying to get away so erratically and driving so dangerously, probably a safe bet to say that he doesn't want to give himself up. And you're right. It might have to come to that non-lethal force to get him out of there.
Yeah, that would be the first option, obviously. They will have tasers ready if he does step out of the vehicle. And most likely, one of the first responders that we will see, in addition to the black and whites that you see in this shot, will almost certainly be at least one or more canine units that will be ready to pounce again if this suspect opens the door and tries anything silly. So canine units, an excellent tool in this situation, as well as less lethal weapons that they have at their disposal until heavier artillery arrives, i.e. armored vehicles such as a Bearcat from SEB, or perhaps again maybe mutual aid from LAPD.
Right, Chris, thank you. Excellent work. We're going to be on the air on ABC 7 momentarily, and then we're going to be on ABC 7 for Eyewitness News at 4 o'clock, coming up in just seconds. Next on Eyewitness News at 4, breaking news: a standoff after a dangerous pursuit in the San Fernando Valley. Law enforcement surrounding this vehicle as you take a live look from Air 7. We'll have the very latest from North Hollywood coming up just moments away. All right, you've been watching this end of the pursuit. This is a standoff that's taking place in North Hollywood, just north of, I believe, the 134 and the 170, right close to that intersection right there. And this car has been driving dangerously, speeding through traffic. He's wanted for at least almost colliding with two law enforcement vehicles earlier on. He sideswiped at least two cars that we know of running through red lights. And right now this has come to a standstill. We believe the car is immobilized, but not quite sure. But this has been a standoff that's been taking place now for about, I say, 20 minutes or so. And we have Chris Christie overhead in Air 7.
Yeah, I think my best estimate would be probably in excess of 40 minutes at least since this pursuit first started, and then we arrived a short time later, maybe even close to an hour, when you consider that at one point the vehicle came to a stop along Foothill up in the La Crescenta area, or La Cañada, I should say. I think it was in the La Cañada Flint Ridge area, and made its way down the hills into Sun Valley, eventually ending here just shy of the 134 south of Burbank Airport. So this has been going on for an extended period of time. As far as I know, LA County Sheriff has been the primary lead agency this entire time trying to bring the suspect into custody. And eventually, at some point, it's worth reiterating, this suspect vehicle was traveling the wrong direction on the 210 freeway when he came dangerously close to colliding with several law enforcement officers. There are now assault with deadly weapon charges on law enforcement included in his in the book that'll be thrown at him, I should say, in addition to other pedestrians that have been almost hit, and in some cases civilian vehicles which were actually struck at various intersections during the course of this pursuit, and including the final minutes of this pursuit before that vehicle finally came to a forceful end when he was T-boned by some cross traffic at an intersection just a block away, eventually immobilizing the vehicle, coming to a stop here just north of the 134 on Vineland, where now LA County Sheriff's deputies have this vehicle stopped. There are numerous officers with their guns drawn, waiting and hoping that the suspect gives up peacefully.
Thank you so much. In Air 7, we're going to, well, okay.
Now, Southern California's news leader, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
The horror and the betrayal of this crime is beyond words.
Now at 4, prosecutors say it was a murder for hire plot. New details on the ambush-style killing of a doctor in Woodland Hills.
I'm asking everyone to send your heartfelt wishes and prayers and thoughts yet again to a community, but this time it's my community.
It has happened again, a mass shooting at a school in the United States. Everything we know about today's tragedy in Wisconsin.
And new at 4.
What's that? Oh. Copy that.